Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Leadership. This is Eric Perez with you once again on this crazy leadership journey. Thank you for joining me again for what is a fantastic series of podcasts around this thing called leadership. And today's guest, which I'm extremely happy to have on the program today, has an extensive background in the leadership space. And before I introduce her formally to you, I just want to run down some of the roles that she's had with industry. So she's currently a non-executive director with the Fisheries Research and Development Corporation. She also holds a non-executive director role with Ozfish Unlimited. In addition, she is a member of the New South Wales Coastal Council and is also a panel member with the New South Wales Marine Estates Expert Knowledge Panel. Can I welcome to the program Adjunct Professor Dr. Kate Brooks. How are you, Kate?
Hi, Eric. I'm great, thank you.
Appreciate you joining the podcast, Kate. It's been a long time in coming. Welcome again. And can I start you with the first question that I lead off with on these podcasts is in which industry was your first leadership role, and why did you take it on?
Thanks again, Eric. It's a great pleasure to have a chat with you. And I do apologise it's taken us so long to catch up. But thank you for these questions. It really got me thinking and casting my mind back. And I think probably the one thing that really is highlighted for me is that it's so rarely that we end up going, oh, that's a leadership role I definitely want. And it's probably only later as we get more sharpened as to what we think we really want to contribute that I've developed that way. So when I think back to my very first leadership role, it was actually in hospitality many years ago when I was working in marketing and corporate affairs. And it was as a result of a conversation I had at a industry function, and said to a general manager in what was Spotless Catering at the time, I don't understand why you've got Parliament House there, Federal Parliament House, the only Federal Parliament House in the Southern Hemisphere where you can have public functions and you don't use it. And he said, oh, why? What would you do? And then I proceeded to sort of give him a little bit of an outline. And then the week after, I got this call saying, do you want to come and work for us in this particular job of running all these venues? And so I suppose it wasn't something I chose. It was just more just through sheer questioning and asking questions and letting my mind explore what the possibilities could be. And other people then go, oh, this is interesting. We've not had anybody else think that way. And I suppose so the leadership role came from having the courage or the interest to think outside the box and let people know about it. So yeah, that was my first leadership role. So it takes me into why did I take it on? It was a great adventure. It was a great opportunity. It was take it on and see if we could develop a really good business out of it.
Yeah, okay. And that has come up in quite a few of the podcasts, Kate, around taking your opportunities when they're presented to you. And when you took this on, did you have any idea that you'd be working in that leader space amongst, for example, all of those organizations that I profiled at the start of the podcast? Did you think you'd be doing things like this in your early career or not?
Oh, heavens, no, not at all. Absolutely. Even when I took that on, I didn't actually understand the level of job I was taking on at the time. I'd gone from working in pretty much a sales role to suddenly ending up in give us a marketing strategy for 7 venues across New South Wales and ACT. And I was like, hang on a second. So yeah, you don't, and then I've changed industry, gone back to more of the fundamental of the research, but still, I think I've always been really interested in strategy and getting the right strategy in place to actually achieve the outcomes. So in terms of envisaging where I am now, it's something that I could see that probably 5 or 6 years ago started to see, hang on, why aren't we doing it this way? Why aren't we doing it? So going back to that questioning and having an inquiring mind, and looking for ways that could be used, and understanding, well, was it that I was missing something? Was it that I need to find out more? So, like you've done, you go and find mentors and talk to them about what's actually going on in that space, and is your idea something that is worthwhile putting forward, or is it something that's already been done? And I suppose it's when you start doing that, and you go, no, actually, I have got something to offer here, and if I can bring it together with the right people. So it's not really, I've never approached it as aspiring to be a leader. I've just approached it as trying to solve problems and improve things.
Yeah, wow, that's a different way to look at it, without intentionally looking for that the moniker of saying you're the manager or general manager or CEO, whatever the title is, take your pick. And you're not the first to say that sometimes these positions are thrust upon you, and you either take them on as a challenge or you don't, because it's a lot easier, I think, at times to take things on like you're describing, when someone taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, you've got to get up and go, here's the opportunity, go and run with it. It's less risk than if that wasn't the case. So that helps me segue nicely into the next question, because you've had such a varied career, and again, in the introduction, it just demonstrates that. Do you find a difference between the leadership and management function?
Well, completely. Management is project management. Management is, how many do I have the right amount of resources? Do I have the right people in the right places? Do I have the information I need to be able to pull all this together? And it's a matter of finding the right bits that go together to make the right type of quilt, for want of a better analogy. And getting all those bits in places. I suppose, to me, leadership is, as they've said in the Australian Rural Leadership Program, it's leading from behind. It's not being out front. It's not carrying the banner necessarily. It's actually facilitating others to be able to do what they do best, and herding them into the right spaces so that they actually really excel and can knit together to create the best outcomes.
Yeah, and again, that's been brought up on several occasions, and I think there's from what I've been hearing, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, or you have a different view. More importantly, is that if leadership and management were on a spectrum, is that at times you have to be a leader with a focus on the operational, versus a leader with the focus on vision and strategy, and the macro of being in an organization or an industry, versus the day-to-day. And that's how at times the leadership function has been put to me versus the management function, without locking a manager in and saying that person can't be an awesome leader or the leader for the moment.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. Just, they're not mutually exclusive. They're things that you can move between, and I think it's really important. And as a leader too, and again, this was something that came up in the Rural Leadership Program, and I quite liked it, was the analogy of being on the dance floor with everybody else and taking the time out to go up and stand on the balcony and look down and see how everyone's moving. And so I think that's the thing is, with a leader, you have to be down there on the dance floor amongst everything, because you need to connect with people to be able to be a good leader. You need to actually see what's going on, feel what's going on, understand what people are going through, even if you can't always necessarily react the way they would like you to. And then sometimes you actually really have to step away from it to have the objectivity to work out what strategically needs to be done. So, to me, it is that ability to move between being able to be amongst it, which to a certain amount is subjective, to stepping outside of it and really ensuring you've got your objectivity clearly in place to be able to strategize and manage where you need to be and separate yourself from all those competing influences when you're actually on the dance floor with everybody else.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Kate. So let's move into let's say negative area, but one of the areas that needs to be discussed is leaders sometimes make mistakes. So how do you engage with an error or mistakes that's attributed to your leadership?
Firstly, I'd say making a mistake is never negative. What is negative is if we make a mistake and we don't learn from it. The moment we stop making mistakes or not doing things as optimally as we would like, then we've stopped learning and we've stopped growing. The challenge is to know when you're actually in unknown territory and make sure you put in mitigation measures so that if you do make a mistake, you've got, it's not catastrophic. They're little mistakes. So it's that check-in. As soon as you know you're moving into unfamiliar territory, put in place check-in mechanisms to keep saying, am I still on the right track? Am I still going the right way? And that might be bringing in mentors. It might be bringing in support people. And that's where I think collaboration really helps, is working with people when you're in unfamiliar territory to mitigate that risk of making a catastrophic mistake.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, and that mistakes vary in their capacity to impact on the organisation. But I think, and again, this is just in my own travels, that culturally, people will expect that if they make a mistake, that it is always a negative, and you try and work your way to mask whatever the error was so that you just can continue working. I guess some of the better leaders I've encountered in my travels take that opportunity to go, no, you can learn from this, because
I was going to say, sorry, I didn't actually answer your question, so I apologise for that. But I think
no, you're right.
I engage with mistakes that I have made, and I think the key thing is to own up to it and engage with it and look at, well, what can I learn from this? I messed up.
Sure. And
put it on the table, own it, put it out there, and that's the fastest way to move beyond it. But the most important thing is not to put it on the table and just leave it there like a dead fish.
Yeah.
Put it on the table and dissect it and understand it and work out why it died.
Agreed. So, Kate, what's the most difficult part of being a leader?
I think it's sustaining the energy that people expect of you. And when often it's things that you're just doing intuitively, and sometimes people sort of expect it to keep happening all the time. That could be one thing, but probably if you're really, it's like anything, if you're put up on a pedestal, it can be a very lonely place. So you really have to, I think, make sure that you've got people around you that you can talk to. This is something I'm sure has come up and I know it's come up in some of your other interviews, is the imposter syndrome that every leader has, because you're doing it intuitively. You go, really, this isn't a big deal. Why is this? And it's actually acknowledging what you have got is of value to other people, and not to minimize that, and not to let it separate you too far from what other people are doing. So the hardest part, or most difficult part about being a leader is to have faith and confidence in what you have to offer, even if it doesn't seem that dramatically different or fabulous to you. It is to somebody, and to have the energy to keep doing it. If you feel like you're really out there on your own pushing a really new boundary, that can get exhausting and can take years sometimes. I remember back to talking about social objectives in 2002, and people not having a great response to that. It took a long time for that to get any sort of traction. So it's having that energy and persistence to keep pushing stuff, and to bring people around you that you can talk to and be vulnerable with. I think that's one of the most important things to do, because sometimes if you are out there as a leader and you always feel like you're expected to be great, you need people to support you, that you can talk to and be safe with.
Yeah, that has come up quite a bit, and it speaks to this idea that when you're in a leadership role, particularly in senior roles, I'd use the example of my colleagues around the country in their positions. When I have had the chance to ask them, well, how do you detox? How do you talk about stuff without realizing it? So, well, you pick up the phone to colleagues or other people at level in other industries to just be able to vent a little bit about what it is that you're doing to get some perspective on that, because it's a lot easier for someone who's not doing what you do to look at it objectively and go, hey, did you consider this? Did you consider that, without being critical? Because I think sometimes people forget to deliver feedback in a constructive way, and that can be taken the wrong way too, because someone that doesn't understand the complexities of what your position might be, that says, well, did you look at this, this and this? It can be taken the wrong way. And I think the boon of being a leader is you've got so much capacity to help others to achieve things, but at the same time, when some things don't get achieved or you've made errors, that suddenly reflects wholly and solely on you. And that's not that. I don't think that's the point. If leadership is about people, then you own the things that you do well together, but you should also own the mistakes together, and never isolate someone and say it's solely your fault, because an organization means a community of people. And as soon as you start losing sight of that, then it becomes about the individual. And that's not what I thought business was about. Like that's me being naive there. So that's me on my pulpit for a couple of seconds there. So I'll move on to something more
positive stuff, Eric. It's all very true.
I'll move on to something a lot more positive. How do you measure success, Kate, as a leader?
Gosh, I suppose it's not something that I actively measure. So it was quite interesting when I saw this question. I thought, oh, yeah, that's an intriguing one. And I suppose really the measurement of success is listening and checking into the people around you and seeing if you're still hitting the mark. Are people responding positively to how you're seeing the world and the perspectives you're taking and the concepts you're raising and the solutions you're helping to identify? Are you getting positive feedback for the contribution you're making? And if that's not, and that doesn't need to be from people above you. It can be from people, your colleagues. It can be from people who work for you. It can, anywhere around you in your leadership space. I think that's incredibly important, is to be listening for it. And that's, when I think about it, is how I measure my success. It's like, am I, and worst case is if you don't feel like you're getting any feedback, is to actually ask for it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of truth in that, and that. So look, Kate, I've got a couple of statements here, and I want to get your feedback on from again your perspective as a leader. I'll start with the first one. On the job experience develops better leaders.
I'd say absolutely, because we all know the people who weren't good managers or leaders around us. And it's only by having that experience, that lived experience, that we can start creating that mosaic of what we want to achieve and contribute, and the types of leaders we want to be. But I think it's not just on the job experience. It's a combination of different things. It's mentors, it's some training, it's self-awareness and training in self-awareness. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Which takes into the next one that you were saying, leaders are born, not made.
Yep.
And look, I think probably there's a certain element of the fundamental personality type we are. But, I look back over my career, and at different times, different parts of my personality have been brought to the fore by the circumstances that I've been in, or the challenge I'm stepping up to. So I think we can develop ourselves as leaders, most definitely. Probably having a certain kernel of something there that you're born with definitely helps.
You didn't mean like an X factor, did you? In terms of that person in the position?
No. I didn't mean an X factor. I mean a certain amount of people who have, well, as I said, I think leaders are people who have questioning minds, who are explorers mentally.
Okay, sure.
Their surroundings. So, but to have that without the right circumstance, the right experience, the right training, the right mentors, that may never be realised.
Yeah, okay. And for the joy of the listeners, I'm still not 100% sure whether it's one or the other or both. You can make arguments, very convincing
sit on the fence with me if you like.
Yeah, I think I might have to, mate, because I can't find a. I don't know if there's ever going to be a right position on that, but I think it goes back to what you said before, which is critical to bring up again, is that what are the motivations for people getting into leadership roles?
Absolutely.
From person to person. So as an example, in my spare time, when I have that spare time, I use it to coach futsal at my son's high school.
Oh, yeah.
I get to see leadership in action on the court when young adults are training to play what is academy sort of elite level sports at the school, and you see the benefits of instilling confidence in all of the players to work together, as well as to speak to the identified leaders in the group to get them to ask a bit more of themselves, not in a physical sense, but in that mental, hey, what's the next play going to be? Where's your headspace for what if this happened? What if that happened? And you can see, especially in younger people, the wheels turning around. How do I think about what the coach has just said? And you see that a lot in younger minds. And as you grow older, you get to apply those things. So sports, to me, is a way to apply some of what I've learned in that leadership space, and definitely things like being autocratic in your approach or saying that your way is the only way doesn't work. What I've found tends to work, and this, the caveat on this is always that kids and young adults that want to be in programs for elite sports really want to be there. So it's not the same as the trials and tribulations that a teacher goes through every day in a class with 30 kids. So I'm not comparing the two by any stretch. So if there's any teachers listening, I'm not downgrading what you do. I'm just talking from a coaching perspective, and that I think sports is a vital training ground for leaders into the future. Whether the kids doing it at the time realize it is something different, and I don't think they're all fully aware of that, because they're still trying to work out what their own headspace is in the world, and alone whether or not they're leading. But to see it in action is a trip, and then to say, well, wow, when I give them space to criticize what I've said, and then we work on it and get something done that's better, whether that's a play or working on a defensive structure for the team, whatever that is, bringing people along with you for the ride gets such a better result than just saying you're going to do this and you're going to do that, or else. That doesn't work. It doesn't work with young minds, and I think you get more resistance to that as you deal with older adults in the workplace. It just doesn't work.
I think also too, you've hit on a really important point as well, Eric. That you said the experiences that we have in life shape us, and and you mentioned about teachers, and we all remember the teacher we loved and we looked up to, and who inspired us in some way, shape, or form. And I think, so it's whether it be that or a boss, or there's certain people, but also certain life experiences that have really fundamentally changed my attitude and my preparedness to step up and put my neck on the line, which I think is what leaders do. They're prepared to actually really put themselves out there on the flimsy branch and give it a go. And it's the people and the experiences who've given us the confidence in ourselves to do that. And I think that happens in schools, it happens in work, it happens in social situations, it happens in clubs. All those things contribute to our ability to be good leaders. Yeah, and I think that's actually a really nice segue into the next question that you had around the statement of strategic thinking and foresight being the most critical leadership capabilities. I'd actually say, yes, you have to have them, but without a questioning mind that's open and humility, you can be the best strategic thinker and having fabulous foresight capacity, but be an absolutely crap leader.
Yeah. Yes. That can happen. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, you need those skills and that ability, but if you don't actually have the ability to be open, to have humility that allows you to understand why things aren't perhaps going the way you thought they should, you can make some horrendous mistakes. So I think, I noted down here, questioning, openness and humility to me has been the three most important things that a leader has to have, in addition to those critical elements of being, have good strategic and foresighting capacities as well.
Yeah, agreed. So the final question I've got here is, this is one that always interests me with the responses I've had, and I'm sure this is going to be interesting when you respond to it, is what you say to a younger version of yourself about being an effective leader, Kate.
I always used to think that being an effective leader meant that I had to talk a lot, that I had to put myself out there and really push myself forward all the time. And I was very lucky to have an excellent boss at one stage who really very bluntly, and I was quite hurt, just told me to be quiet more. And it was the best advice. So basically listen more and speak less.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's quite a trippy way to end this podcast, Kate. Look, I do appreciate your time. And for those listening, I've been speaking with Adjunct Associate Professor, Dr. Kate Brooks from Deakin University. Kate, again, thank you for your time. And I'm hoping I can come back to you at some point in the future to talk to you more about some things around this leadership game, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely delighted to have a chat anytime, Eric.